Nigerian presidential pardon. Well, so I'm setting up doing some settings first. Uh, all right. So in this live segment, we'll be talking about the Nigerian president pardon and the overview of what that is and what does that mean for the broader the whole country and the continent at large. Is it constitutional or is it something the president just wake up and decide to do it? So I just trust that you will follow us on AfriFact and subscribe to our channel as we do that. Now, I will start with an overview of the Nigerian the pardon in Nigeria and how they work and the recent example, the legal basis and the key debates. Okay, so this is what we'll be looking at. So if you're there, you can say hi in the comment section. You can say hi if you are with me. Meanwhile, let me be taking this from my African made pack. It's very sweet. Yeah, it's made with corn. So, uh, hmm, it's very, very sweet. Oh, so recently, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria granted pardon to about 175 inmates, prisoners. Is this and what is the implication of that? These are all what we'll be looking at today. So, if this is your first time joining us, I think I will urge you to subscribe to our channel and follow AfriFact because we keep you posted. So, what is presidential pardon in Nigeria as we know? Now let's look at it this way. What's legal to a serving prisoner and what is the implication? So we'll be looking at it in this in Nigeria now. What legal rights? Now what is a presidential pardon in Nigeria? The power of a president to pardon is the part of a constitutional prerogative of mercy. Under this power, the president can grant pardon, reprieves, or commute sentence. So there's a section in Nigerian constitution that empower the president to grant pardon to a serving inmate. Whatever the degree or the intensity of the sentence is, it allows the president to say, hey, you've been forgiven, go home and rest. So that is the power that has been given to. So let's look at the section of the constitution that particularly empower the president to do that. Specifically section 175 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Are you with me? If you are with me, you can say hi in the comment section. Let me know you're following. Specifically section 175 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended provide that okay, provide that the president may pardon a person convicted of offense under federal law, either free or under lawful condition. It must be done after consultation with the Council of State. So this is the constitution that empower the president to take such a drastic action. Now, usually there is a committee that reviews potential cases. The Presidential Advisory Committee on Prerogative of Mercy, PACM, CPN. The committee investigates application, examine factors like behavior in prison, health, age, whether the convict is remorseful, etc. Wow, this is interesting. Now, usually there is a committee that has been set in place to review these names that the president submits. Now, what are the factors this committee look at? Before the committee approved the list of the prisoners that have been submitted by the president, these are the committee investigates applications and they examine factors like the behaviors in prison, that's the prisoner's behavior, and the health of the prisoner, the age of the prisoner, and whether the convict is remorseful, whether the convict is actually very, very sorry for his action, or he is still thinking he's right and he's not. And at the end of the investigation, the committee makes recommendation. So these are the power that empower the president to take that action. So we are looking at this because recently there's a presidential pardon in Nigeria where the president granted pardon to about 175 inmates, and some of them for criminal offenses, but he granted them pardon. So we are just trying to review the legal backing, the legal grounds on which he did this, and what are the implications of that in the whole country and the continent at large. Now, a recent example. Now we are looking at a recent example. A recent case where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a recent case is Bola Ahmed Tinubu pardon clemency exercised in October 2025. Now, in this very clemency, 175 persons across various categories were beneficiaries. Out of these, now let's look at the people that were pardoned and the nature of their offenses. Now, out of these people that were pardoned, we have 82 inmates that were granted full pardon. Out of the 175 people, 82 were granted full pardon. Then 65 had their sentence reduced. 65 of the serving prisoners have their sentence reduced. Then we have 7 death sentences were commuted to life imprisonment. 7 out of the death sentence were commuted to life imprisonment. Among notable names and posthumous pardon are Herbert Macaulay and Mama Vesta. Also, the Ogoni 9, including Tensoro Wiwa, were granted posthumous pardon. Okay. Now, beautiful. Now let's look at the criteria used. The criteria that was used to grant this pardon are: 1, old age from 60 and above. That is one of the criteria they used to grant this pardon was the age. So if you are 60 years and above, they consider it and grant you pardon. Seriously ill or likely health that will lead to death. And then youth for youths that are younger than 16 years and below, long prison term with good behavior, acquisition of vocational skills while incarcerated, remorse. All right, incarcerated. Okay, that's an English word. Then these were the people that were granted bail. Now let's look at the legal and the moral issues that has been debated. A lot of people have debated this thing. Some said this is not good, and you can also leave your comments and your thoughts in the section. We will discuss it and look at it together. Do you think this is a good thing for a country called Nigeria, where the president grants bail to about 175 serving prisoners, and some were given full pardon, which means they are free to go despite the level of their offense? They were pardoned to go for free. All right, let's look at another one. Let's look at the legal and the moral issues and the debates that goes across them. There are several debates around this pardon and pardons. So one, justice versus mercy. I love this title. There are several people debating now. They are debating justice versus mercy. Now let's look at it now. Somebody offended me, and I felt justified that he is serving a prison term because I've been offended, and I got justice. Okay, he's facing the consequences of his action, and then I wake up overnight and having to live with the reality that the person that commit that against me is walking freely on the street. Nothing is being done. I think I will have this thought that I don't have full justice. So that's what it meant by justice versus mercy. Now let's look at another aspect. Now, the prerogative of mercy is intended to temper justice with compassion, not undermine justice. This is another interesting part. The prerogative of mercy is intended to temper justice with compassion, not undermine justice. Okay, this is from This Day Live. Now, critics argue that pardoning people convicted of serious crimes, e.g. murder, drug trafficking, corruption, can send a wrong message of accountability. Wow, this is very interesting. Critics argue that pardoning people convicted of serious crimes, e.g. murder, drug trafficking, corruption, can send a wrong message about accountability. Now let's look at it. Somebody commit a serious crime of murder, drug trafficking, and probably corruption charges, and you wake up overnight and give him a free pardon, he will feel like it will send a wrong message to the whole community, where people live with this nothing. Even if I do this, nothing. One day we'll wake up and I'll be pardoned. So because I'm connected and all of that, so they do whatever they feel like doing and without any fear, and nothing will happen, since I can wake up one day and be pardoned for the degree of the offense I have committed. So critics argue that pardoning people convicted of serious crimes, e.g. murder, drug trafficking, corruption, can send a wrong message about accountability. This is interesting. Now, we're talking about now posthumous pardon and exoneration. All right, let's look at that. Now, what does that mean? Now, posthumous pardon means forgiveness after death. All right, that's posthumous pardon and exoneration. Of course, said you've been sentenced to prison and you die in prison. They now said you've been pardoned, and in fact, one of them was even conferred with the honorary degree, national award. So but does not all means formal exoneration, that is legally declaring that the person was innocent. Some groups see pardon without exoneration as insufficient or even offensive. For instance, Ogoni activists insist on exoneration of the Ogoni Nine, not just pardon. Okay? 3. Transparency and criteria. There are calls of clearer, consistent criteria so that the public understand why certain convicts get pardoned or have sentence commuted. Lack of transparency can lead to perception of favoritism or that justice is selective. This is interesting. There are calls for clear, consistent, like we should have a clear and a consistent criteria requirement for such pardon, not waking up overnight and having the president just choose to select one or two persons that he can just pardon at will, and those things can be questionable. There are calls for clearer, consistent criteria so that the lack of understanding why certain convicts get pardoned or have sentence commute, lack of transparency can lead to perception of favoritism or that justice is selective. Okay, this is getting very, very interesting. Now, effect on reformation and deterrence. You remember we are still looking at the pardon by the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the presidency, pardoning about 175 prisoners, and some were granted full pardon, which means they'll be set free, like you can go home and rest. Now, effect on reformation and deterrent. The balance between punishment, wrongdoing, deterring crime, and rehabilitation offenders is delicate. Too many pardons might weak deterrence to rigid application, might ignore human rights and rehabilitation. All right. Okay, can we move ahead to look at a little summary? So we will be looking at some notable people that were pardoned in the recent presidential pardon. Who was pardoned or granted clemency in the recent Tinubu exercise? I also will be looking at some notable names and what happened and how someone can apply. If you are not okay with the pardon, what can you do? Okay, if you are not too okay with the pardon, what can you do? Just stay with us because we'll follow all of this. What we'll be looking at is who was pardoned by this recent President Tinubu clemency, who was pardoned or who was granted bail, who was granted clemency in the recent Tinubu exercise. We'll also look at some notable names and what happened and how someone can apply petition for such pardon under current Nigerian law. That is, how can I apply for, like, if I'm not okay with this pardon, what can I do? So we'll look at all of it now. Now, first of all, we'll start with notable beneficiaries of Tinubu's 2025 presidential pardon clemency. The most recent exercise granted mercy to 175 persons, a mixture of inmates, former convicts, people already dead, that's posthumous, etc. Okay, now here are some of the names. Now this is from the State House report. This information is from the State House report, so it's authentic. Now here are some names and individuals and what they got. So we'll be looking at it in this order. We'll look at the name and the context of the conviction and the context. We'll look at the nature of their pardon. So we have Sir Herbert Macaulay, convicted under British colonial rule in 1913, banned from public office. That's Herbert Macaulay. He has been granted posthumous pardon. Then we have Major General Mamman G. Versa, sentenced to death for treason, alleged coup plot. Is also a posthumous pardon. Remember, like we said earlier, posthumous pardon is granting somebody pardon even after his death, claiming his innocence and all his assumed offenses have been declared. He's been declared innocent. Now, then we have the 9, including Ken Sero Wiwa, executed in 1995 after conviction, murder trial under military rule, posthumous pardon. So we are just looking at some important names in this recent pardon by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Then we have Mariam Sanda, sentenced to death for killing her husband. Yes, this was a young lady that was sentenced to death for killing her husband, and the president grants her. Okay, let's look at the nature of the pardon. Her sentence was among those capital cases reviewed. Death row were commuted in some cases. So some people that were sentenced to death were commuted to life sentence. So her cases was one of them. Then we have Honorable Farouk M. Lawal, convicted in 2021 for corruption practice, fully pardoned and released. Wow. This is a House of Representative member that was committed in 2001, Honorable Farouk M. Lawal. He was convicted in 2001 for corruption practices, but he has been given full pardon. He has been released. Then we have Nweke Francis, serving life sentence at Kirikiri for cocaine-related cocaine-related offense. Nweke Francis Chibuze, serving a life sentence at Kirikiri for cocaine-related offense. He's been pardoned. He's been set free. So these are the caliber of people that Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria granted them pardon. Imagine, this is Nweke Francis Chibuzo serving a life sentence at Kirikiri for cocaine-related offenses, but he's been granted full pardon. He's been set free. This is interesting. So we are still looking at the list of people that have been granted pardon by the president. Now we have Dr. Nuogu Peters, serving 17 years term for fraud, convicted in 2013. He's been pardoned. Then we also have Miss Anastasia Daniel Nuogi, fraud. She's been pardoned. We have Barrister Husseini Alhaji Omar, fine in an ICPC case, fine of 150 million. They've been pardoned. Then we also have Ayinla Sadu Alamin for bribery in 2019, sentenced to 17 years, has been pardoned. Also, 82 inmates were fully pardoned. Then 65 inmates have their sentence reduced to commute. They had a life sentence, but it was reduced to commute. The 7 direct sentences were commuted to life imprisonment. All right. This is where it gets so interesting. Uh, this is where it gets so interesting. All right, it gets interesting here. Now, the next part of this thing, this I will be looking at is how to petition, apply for presidential pardon clemency in Nigeria. How to petition or apply for presidential clemency in Nigeria. Uh, it said if someone wants to seek pardon, the process generally involves the following according to current Nigerian law and recent practice. So this is how you should go about it if you want to apply for presidential pardon or clemency in Nigeria. If someone wants to seek a pardon, the process generally involves the following according to the current Nigerian law. What is involved? These are step by step what is involved. Legal basis. The power of the presidential pardon in prerogative of mercy is in section 175 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. The president acts after consultation with the Council of State. Advisory Committee. The Presidential Advisory Committee on Prerogative of Mercy, PACPM, was inaugurated on June 9, 2005. It has 12 members chaired by the Attorney General, Minister of Justice. The committee reviews applications and recommends beneficiaries. Prison Correctional Authorities. The Nigeria Correctional Service, formerly Prison Service, is involved in identifying inmates who meet criteria. In January 2025, the Correctional Service Controller General asked all command states (FCT) compile list of inmates eligible based on the criteria like old age, health status, length of sentence. So let's look at the criteria that they use in this. Okay, now from recent pardon, the criteria include some of old age, serious illness, possibly terminal, young or juvenile, long-time convicted with good prison conduct, people who have acquired vocational trade skills, remorseful, some enrollment in our pursuit of education reduction for those on death row in some cases. Now, application and petition. Usually, the prisoner or someone on their behalf, lawyer or family, writes a petition to the PACPM or through the relevant correctional authorities. The petition should include reasons, e.g., health, conduct, remorse, etc. Documents supporting these reasons, proof, sentence served to date. Sometimes rehabilitation efforts. Review and recommendation. The committee investigate possibly get report from prison officials, correctional officers, and medical reports. If relevant, then it makes recommendation to President through the Attorney General. The Council of State is consulted. If approved, the President issues pardon, commutes sentence. So we are still looking at what power does the President have to do this and what are the process to apply for presidential pardon. Now, the outcome. The pardon may be full, free, or conditional, or the sentence may be reduced. Death sentence may be commuted to life, etc. The order is published, and a convict is released, or the sentence is adjusted. So these are the process These are the processes that are involved. It's a whole long process that is involved. All right, can we now look at the negative implications of this released on the. So if you are with me, just say hi in the comment section. Let me know you are with me. Let me get a hi in the comment section, please. If you are there, a thumbs up, a hi. Thank you. You can like and you can share. So we're now going to be looking at the negative implications of that. Yeah, so looking at the negative implication of that. All right, this is an interesting part because, in as much as presidential pardon is an excellent part of the constitution, it also do comes with its own um, negativity. Because presidential pardon, while constitutionally legal, and sometimes humane, can have serious negative implications if not applied transparently and fairly. I love this. Presidential pardon, while constitutionally legal and sometimes humane, can have serious negative implications if not applied transparently and fairly. Below the major negative implication of Tinubu 2025 mass presidential pardon and similar exercise in Nigeria, broken into legal, social, and security dimension. Alright, so now we'll be reviewing some of the negative implications of his actions. Number one, the negative implication number one, undermining the rule of law and judicial authority. Perception of selective justice. This is a subheading. When people convicted of serious crime, including corruption, murder, or treason, are pardoned, it can appear that the law only applies to the poor while the powerful get special treatment. This is very, very interesting. Weakened judicial deterrence. If individuals who were sentenced after long and expensive trials are later pardoned, it undermines the authority of the judiciary and makes conviction feels meaningless. This is very, very important point. This is an important point. He said, just waking up and having the president pardon people, said it weakens the judicial system. Now, for example, if individuals who were sentenced after long and expensive trials are later pardoned, it undermines the authority of the judiciary and makes conviction feels meaningless. So the thing here is, what's the point of convicting people if the president can wake up one day and say, your sins have been forgiven, you can go for free? So it actually weakens the judicial systems and make the whole thing look meaningless. What's the point after all? All right, then another point is another point here also is waking up to see the president setting an inmate free is erosion of institutional trust. Citizens may lose confidence in the justice system believing the criminal punishment can easily be undone through political connections. This is an important point. People will now like, what's the point? Social and moral consequences. Social and moral consequences. Now we look at the next point, it's social and moral consequences. Public distrust, like cynicism. Victims of crime and wider public may feel betrayed or unsafe when convicted criminals are suddenly released. This can lead to a widespread of anger and delusionment with government. That is very true. Just imagine that somebody that commits a serious crime, you just wake up and he's free. It actually has a way and an implication. All right. All right. So when we move to the next point, which is victims' rights is overlooked. In cases like murder, now let's look at this. In cases like murder or violence, crimes family of crimes crimes families of victims can feel ignored or re-traumatized if offenders are released or their sentence are reduced without adequate explanation or consultation. Yes, that's very true. Now, erosion of ethical standards. Granting clemency to those convicted of corruption is in particular can normalize unethical behavior in political and public service, making corruption seem forgivable rather than punishable. Wow, this is interesting. Granting clemency to people that commit set corruption offenses can make the thing a normal way. It's a forgivable offense. So what's the point? So it wouldn't send any serious message to them out there, since they are very sure that after all they can wake up and they will be set free. Just with their connections and all of that, they will be free. So the ethical standard will be reduced in such a way that people will no longer be scared of committing such offense anymore. So it says granting clemency to those convicted of corruption in particular can normalize unethical behavior in politics and public service, making corruption seems forgivable rather than punishable offense. This is interesting. Now, let's look at another thing, the security factors. Just imagine having convicted criminals being set free, roaming about, and they are just going up and down in the street. We know that they said there are some criteria they use in setting these prisoners free. But the point I'm trying to make here is how true those criteria. How sure are we that those prisoners have actually been rehabilitated? Now, let's look at the security risks that is involved. Let's look at, there are some potentially dangerous people that might have been released. Some convicts may reoffend or return to criminals network, especially if proper reintegration and monitoring measures are weak. This is a serious risk in a country already facing banditry, terrorism, and high crime rates. Yes, some released prisoners, convicts, may reintegrate back into their community. We're looking at the risk factor of the action done by the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the president. Some released convicts may return back to their network and start their action again. And this is something that can now trigger another re-emergence of security challenges owing to the fact that the country is currently facing a serious security challenge. Some convicts may often or return to criminal network, especially if proper reintegration and monitoring measures are weak. This is a serious risk in a country already facing banditry, terrorism, and high crime rates. Of course, this is a serious problem. Insensitive criminal behavior. So we are looking at the implication of President Bola Tinubu releasing over 175 inmates, serving prisoners, and granting clemency. Some of them their service, the prison service being reduced. Some of them granted free, forgiven free. So we're gonna be looking at another factor. So we're still looking at the security risks. Insensitive. If okay, we're looking at another thing now that we're looking at is okay. The next point we're looking at is insensitive criminal behavior. Having the president releasing this certain number of people in a day, if criminals believe they can later get pardoned through political lobbying or mercy exercise, it weakens deterrence and may embolden others. If criminals believe that they can get pardoned, there's no point stressing themselves. They can still continue whatever they're doing because they know that they'll be pardoned. Okay, now let's look at overburdening of security system. Security agency may face increased network monitoring ex-convicts or responding to crimes committed by those who were pardoned prematurely. This is interesting. So, overburdening of security system. Security agency may face increased work. They will have to monitor ex-convicts or responding to crimes committed by those who were pardoned prematurely. This is serious. All right, let's look at the political implications. Let's look at the political implications. Just a minute, please. All right. Okay. Sorry for that. So let's look at the political implications. Reception of political patronage. Pardons involving high-profile politicians, e.g., Farouk Lawan, are often viewed as politically motivated rather than humanitarian. This can damage the credibility of the government. All right. Let me take that again. Pardons involving high political profile politicians, e.g., Farouk Lawan, are often viewed as politically motivated rather than humanitarian. This can damage the credibility of the government. Then the next one is loss of international reputation. Nigerian fight against corruption is closely monitored by foreign partners. Pardoning individuals convicted of financial crime can weaken international trust and affect foreign aid investment or credit rating. This is interesting. Then potential abuse of power. This is another important point. If presidential pardon becomes a tool to reward allies or protect political loyalists, it sets a dangerous precedent that weakens accountability. So let me take that point again. If presidential pardon becomes a tool to reward allies or protect political loyalists, it sets a dangerous precedent and weakens accountability. This is very interesting. Now, systemic implication. Now we're looking at systemic implications for anti-corruption and justice reform. Undermining anti-corruption agency like the EFCC, that is the Economic and Financial Crime Commission in Nigeria. All right, let me just give you a brief. These are the institutions that are saddled with the responsibility in Nigeria to fight corruption. And then we have the ICPC, that's Independent and Corrupt Practice Commission. They are all saddled with the responsibility to fight corruption and financial illegalities. So imagine that this institution puts in their effort, their economy, their resources to bring uh, these people to court and do all of those process to send them to prison, and we wake up overnight and the president just set them free. Now let's look at it. Agencies like EFCC and ICPC may feel demoralized when their years of investigation are undone by one political decision. Come on, that's very interesting. Imagine that they put in all the effort to do this and just wake up, the president has pardoned all the convicts. So it's also going to weaken deterrence against corruption. Politicians and officials may feel emboldened to commit fraud, believing that eventually clemency is likely to take place. Um, this incentive for whistleblowers and reformists. So, citizens and whistleblowers may feel low motivated to report crimes if they believe offenders will face no lasting consequences. Okay. Okay, let's look at some real world example for Tinubu's pardon exercise. Okay, pardoning Farouk Lawal, a high profile politician convicted of corruption, raised immediate public backlash. Many Nigerians saw it as a step backward in the fight against corruption. Yes, most definitely. Yes. Pardoning Farouk Lawal, a high-profile politician convicted of corruption, raised immediate public backlash. Many Nigerians saw it as a step backward in the fight against corruption. Alright, now let's look at another one. Granting clemency to those convicted of violent crimes, e.g. murder cases, alarm rights groups who argued it sent a signal that justice can be negotiated. Okay. Alright then. Posthumous pardon, e.g. Ken Soro Wiwa, Mama Bertha, have symbolic weight but don't necessarily clear their names legally, causing tension between government and community seeking the government and community seeking exoneration, not forgiveness. So let's look at the summary of the key negative implications and the categories. So we're looking at the summary of the key negative implications. Legal: weakness of judicial authority, selective justice. This is summary. 2. Loss of public trust. Victims are usually traumatized. That's social social negative effect. Loss of public trust and victim traumatization. Then security negative effect, reoffend, reoffending, weaken deterrence. Then political, patronage perception damage to patronage perception damage to Nigerians' image. Anti-corruption, undermining EFCC and ICPC involvement in corruption actors. So in essence, while clemency can be a tool of mercy, if poorly managed or politically tainted, it can erode the foundation of justice, weaken government, and endanger public safety. This is interesting. All right. So this is now my policy brief critical analysis, the negative implication of Nigeria's 2025 presidential pardon. This is dated October 14th, 2025, prepared by me, Sebastian Charles, Country, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Topic: implication of mass presidential clemency under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Executive summary. On October 9, 2005, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu exercised his constitutional powers of prerogative of mercy to grant pardon, clemency, or sentence commissions to 175 individuals. This includes 82 full pardons, 65 commute sentences, and 7 death sentences reduced to life imprisonment, as well as posthumous pardon for historic figures like Herbert Macaulay, Mama Versa, and Ken Saro-Wiwa. While the exercise was legally grounded in Section 175 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, it has generated widespread debate over its timing, scope, transparency, and political undertones. This policy briefing examines the negative implication of such mass clemency on Nigerian legal system, architect, architecture, governance, and international reputation. Number one, the rule of law and judicial authority. The Nigerian judiciary faces credibility challenge when convictions from extensive investigation and trials are reversed or neutralized through political desecration. Judicial deterrent erodes the effectiveness of courts. It weakens when convicts, including those found guilty of corruption and violence crime, are released prematurely. Perception of selective justice. High-profile pardon criteria creates a belief that justice favors the powerful, undermining equal treatment and the law. Institutional trust decline. Citizens and victims lose faith in the judicial and anti-corruption agencies. Social and moral consequences. Mass pardon can weaken social cohesion and moral standards. Victims' rights ignored. Family of murdered victims or corruption whistleblowers are re-traumatized when offenders are freed, symbolically forgiven without their inputs. Public distrust. Citizens may perceive government as protecting elite, deepening anger and social cynicism. Erosion of ethical norms. Granting clemency to corrupt officials normalizes impunity and weakens the moral fabric of government. Then security risks and public safety concerns. In a nation facing banditry, terrorism, kidnapping, and organized crime, premature release of convicts can have grave security implications. Risks of reoffending without a robust reintegration and monitoring program. Released inmates may return to crime network, weakening deterrence. The perception that punishment can be undone through pardon and may embolden criminals. Pressure on security agencies, monitoring released individuals, adding strain to already overstretched security forces. Political and government implications. The 2025 pardon list include politically exposed persons such as Farouk Lawan, convicted in 2021 for bribery. Perception of patronage. Such pardon fuel allegations of political favoritism. International reputation damage. Nigeria's fight against corruption is closely monitored globally. This action risks damaging Nigerian standing with development partners, investors, and international watchdogs. Potential abuse of power. When pardons appear politically motivated, it sets a dangerous precedent for future administration. This is very interesting. Undermining anti-corruption efforts. Demoralizing agencies. Years of work by the EFCC and the ICPC and the judiciary can be undone in a single stroke, weakening institutional morals. Okay. Encouraging corruption. Political and business elites may feel emboldened to engage in corrupt acts, believing that future clemency is likely. Deterrent whistleblowers. Citizens may be less willing to expose wrongdoing if justice can be easily reversed. Okay, let's look at some cases. Uh, let's look at some cases here, like the case of Farouk Lawal, a former lawmaker convicted for corruption pardoned in 2025, raising serious concern about Nigeria anti-graft stance. Then Maryam Sada, convicted of the murder of her husband, part of a set of capital punishment cases reviewed, sparked debate on victims' rights. Then posthumous pardon, while symbolic, pardoning figures like Ken Soro Wiwa without exoneration has caused backlash from the Ogoni community and human rights groups. Alright, here are policy recommendations. Establish a transparent criteria, publish clearly eligible guidelines and reasons for each clemency decision. Then 2, involve victims and civil rights victims' family and civil rights groups should have input in the clemency process. 3, strengthen reintegrate system, ensure release inmates are monitored and rehabilitated to prevent reoffending. 4, exempt high-profile corruption cases. To preserve integrity, corruption cases involve public funds should not be eligible for routine pardon. This is very important. Council of State accountability. Ensure decisions are not merely symbolic rubber stamp but are based on objective assessment. Conclusion. While presidential clemency is a legitimate constitutional power, its use must be measured, transparent, and accountable. The 2025 mass pardon exercise has raised significant legal, security, and ethical concerns that could erode public trust, weaken Nigerian justice system, and damage its global reputation. A reform clemency framework that prioritizes justice, fairness, and security is crucial to ensure that mercy does not become a tool of impunity. Yes, this is very interesting. Now, so is actually getting interested. Now, this ending conclusion part, it says, while presidential clemency is a legitimate constitutional power, its use must be measured, it must be transparent and accountable. The 2025 mass pardon exercise has raised significant legal, security, and ethical concerns that could erode public trust, weakening Nigeria's justice system, and damage global reputation. A reform clemency framework that prioritizes justice, fairness, and security is crucial to ensure the mercy does not become a tool of impunity. Yeah, thank you very much. Feel free to say hi in the comment section. I will be here live to respond to your comments. So this is AfriFact. We look at facts around Africa, and we look at the current happenings, the trend, and what is affecting our people directly, and we talk about it. So we can discuss generally on Africa, but today we are looking at the presidential pardon and the clemency in Nigeria, where the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria grant pardon to 175 inmates. So we just looking at the implications, the legal ground for which he took that action, and what is the risks and all the negative implications we can talk of. So if you want to join the conversation, you can post your comments in the comment section and we'll look at it, and I will read it out. Then we look at it together and discuss. So feel free to post. Feel free. This is AfriFact, and if you've not subscribed to our channel, I urge you to subscribe, because we bring news from all around Africa, and I assure you that you will not regret hanging out with us, because this channel is all about Africa and the updates around Africa, the history of Africa, and where we're going. Like we all know, Africa is heading somewhere, but of course, if we don't paint the light for ourselves, people out there will be given the narrative, and we will just be at the receiving end, and whatever they tell us, that's what we believe. But now we want to take charge of the narrative. We want to speak for ourselves. We don't want the Western media to keep telling us the story they want to hear, or what they want us to believe. But when you hear something over time, keep hearing it, you tend to believe it, that this is the truth. But here at AfriFact, we bring the truth as it is, try to portray Africa as it is, and give all the positive narrative out there, put it out there for people to see, and making sure that the whole world is not just painting Africa black, giving it the color it wants. So today we've been looking at the clemency in Nigeria. Just like I said earlier, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria just just freed 175 prisoners, including high-profile corruption charges, like the case of including the case involving just a minute, please. Okay, like the case involving Mr. Farouk, Honorable Farouk Lawal, is one of the high-profile politicians that have just been pardoned. So we're reviewing it today and making sure that we look at the effect and the implications. And like we looked at it earlier, one of the effects is it undermines the effort of the security agencies, because security agencies like the EFCC and the ICPC and the judiciary can feel so demoralized, because they say their effort can be undone by one single political action, where they've struggled for over years to bring a person that has committed a crime, and they wake up overnight, the president just free the criminal like that. That has a way of sending a negative wave, and it can send a negative signal where the security agencies might not have that morale to go out there and do what is needed anymore. So if you are just joining us, this is AfriFact, and in this channel we make sure that we bring all the needed news on Africa, about Africa. Okay, yeah, I think okay, just a moment. Okay. So we've been talking about the presidential pardon in Nigeria since we spoke about the effects, we spoke about the implications, we've also talked about how it affects the judicial system and how it undermines their efforts. And we also look at how a high profile politician being pardoned and what is the implication having a high profile politician pardoned. We looked at how that tends to affect the people, and one of the things we looked at was that the 2025 pardon list include politically exposed persons such as Farouk Lawan, convicted in 2021 for bribery. Yes, this is a very high profile person that is involved in this case. And let's look at it critically. Perception. Such pardon fuel allegation of political favoritism. Then we now have international reputation. Uh, Such pardon can damage Nigerian reputations globally. Also, it can be seen as a potential abuse of power, where people feel when the power gets to them, they can just do whatever they want to do and go get away with it. Okay, this is where the story gets very, very interesting here. There have been several international, regional, and societal reactions to Tinubu's pardon, especially the Portmos ones and those seen as controversial. Here is a summary of what is found. There's been a very controversial reaction. Okay. So there are international and regional reactions. Human rights groups. Amnesty International welcomed pardon of the Ogoni Nine, but said it falls far short of justice. They insist that what what's needed is a full exoneration, not simply a pardon. Then number two, Amnesty also criticized the broader clemency exercise, saying that pardoning people convicted of human rights crimes can prevent reparations for victims and obstruct truth and accountability. Okay? Activists, local society with international visibility. Ogoni activists and civil society groups reject the pardon of Ogoni Nine, arguing pardon implies guilty. They demand recognition of innocence. Environmental defenders and critics have said that pardon of the Ogoni Nine is seen by some as token gesture or an attempt to pacify dissent rather than addressing ongoing harms, environmental pollution, corporate accountability. Media and international reporting. International media outlets report criticism. For example, AP News noted that the pardon of the Ogoni Nine draws criticism from human rights groups and activists, pointing out that they were never credibly convicted. Then number four, impression concern from foreign partners implicit anticipated. While I did While there is no explicit statement from foreign governments, e.g. US, UK, EU, in what is being circulated, several reports and civil society statements suggest that these pardons have raised concern about Nigerian commitments to anti-corruption and human rights norms, things that often feature in aid, investment, and discussion. For example, some commentators have pointed out that pardoning individuals convicted of corruption or serious crime could damage Nigeria's international standing. Then, warning that Nigeria's partner in the fight against drug trafficking may become less confident in the resolve. So these are the international stance on this very issue. All right. In Nigeria, the president can grant pardon or clemency at any time, but there are constitutional rules and checks that govern how and when it can be done. Here's a breakdown. So, at any time, the president can grant clemency, but there are rules that govern it. The power comes from Section 175 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Section 175. The president may. All right. Let me read the section now. The president may a grant any person concerned or convicted of any office a pardon, either free or subject to lawful conditions. B. Grant a respite of execution of any punishment. C. Substitute a less severe punishment for heavier ones. D. Remit the whole or any part of the punishment, penalty, or forfeiture. So there is an important check. But there's an important check. Section 175 subsection 2 states that the president shall exercise this power after consultation with the Council of State. What this means in practice, there is no fixed time limit. The president can issue pardon, whatever he chooses, provided the Council of State, which includes past presidents, governors, and PE officials, is consulted and approved. However, in practice, mass pardons are rare and usually happen once or twice during the presidency. Often, to mark national occasion, e.g. Independence Day, Democracy Day, during prison decongestion drives as part of the national reconciliation gesture, e.g. Portmore's pardon. Okay, this is very important now. We're not going to be looking at history, historical example of presidential pardon in Nigeria. Okay, these are historical pardon in Nigeria from 2000. In the year 2000, Olusegun Obasanjo pardoned several Civil War era soldiers. Then in 2010, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan granted clemency to executed militants during the Niger Delta amnesty. Then in 2013, Goodluck Jonathan pardoned Governor Desiree controversial corruption case. Then in 2002, President Muhammadu Buhari granted pardon to 159 convicted, including former Governor Joshua Dare and Jolie Nena. Okay. And then in 2025, Bola Ahmed Tinubu granted 175 persons, including high-profile convicted and utmost figures. This is very, very interesting. So, like I stated earlier, there is no fixed frequency. Nigerian president can grant pardon as often as they choose. In practice, clemency is usually exercised on national occasion, if the Independence Day or Democracy Day, at the end of the presidency, to clear prison rules or to make political gesture under pressure from humanitarian, political, or diplomatic consideration. Um, for example, in 2000, Obasanjo from 1999 to 2007. Then we have Goodluck Jonathan, high profile pardon, 2013. This very okay. Then we also have Muhammadu Buhari approves the mass pardon, and then Bola Ahmed Tinubu oversight and advisory role. While the Council of State, comprising of former president, governors, chief justice of Nigeria, etc., must advise the president before the pardon is granted, their advice is not binding. Oh my God, this is so heartbroken. Look at this point. This is so heartbroken. He said, while the Council of State, comprising of the former president, governors, chief justice of Nigeria, etc., must advise the president before a pardon is granted, their advice is not binding, which means he can choose to follow the advice, or no, he can choose to go ahead with whatever he wants to do, which means it gives him an what's that called? Autonomy? What? I don't know. In the comment section, what is it called? It gives the when we refer to a total power or to execute a particular act, autonomous power or something like that. Help me out. So the advice is not binding. The president can still approve the pardon if he so wishes. Then there is no constitutional mechanism to limit the number of pardons or force public disclosure of full criteria. Oh yes, you see, that's another limiting factor. There is no constitutional mechanism to limit the number of pardons or force public disclosure of the criteria. You see, that's another limiting factor, because the president needs the pardon need to be in such a way that the criteria that has been followed to that leads to that pardon should be disclosed to the public, that they should be fully aware of the process, the proceedings, and all. But here, the process is vague, potential for abuse, because there is no set limit. Presidential pardon and power can be misused. Yes. Such power can be misused to protect political allies, to weaken anti-corruption enforcement, or to score political points. This is why many civil society groups and legal scholars in Nigeria have called for greater transparency in the process, clear criteria for pardon, eligibility, and clear criteria for pardon and eligibility, and parliamentary or judicial review of controversial pardon. So, in summary, a Nigerian president can grant pardon as often as they want, but must consult the Council of State. There is no legal limit on frequency, and only political, legal, and reputational consequences. Oh, that is interesting. All right, that was an interesting segment, and this is AfriFacts. What we do on this channel is we look at Africa as a whole. We bring you news and updates from around Africa. We also bring you history from Africa and all that concerns Africa. So I guess yesterday we looked at what is happening in Cameroon. Paul Biya trying to come back again, and the controversies surrounding it. And today we're looking at the presidential pardon by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, and what that means for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We look at the security implications, what that is doing for the corruption agencies that are working in Nigeria, and the international reputation. So We will be coming live once in a while to bring a look at the current and trending topics and discussion on it. So thank you for hooking around with us. If you've not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe and always give us a thumbs up and follow us on our social media handles. This is AfriFact. Thank you for watching. Do have a blessed day. Bye bye. Oh, oh, oh.